It's time to start week 6. Week 6 is a brand new unit. We are going to do an online mini research project. The name of this project is Stunt Journalism. Now, I know you're thinking there's only a few weeks left. How can we possibly do a research project? But I promise you that not only will you be successful, but that it should be a pretty good learning experience. So, the idea of stunt journalism comes from this 30-day challenge idea. This is a short TED talk that we are going to watch about the 30-day challenge. And as he talks, think about things that you could take on for 30 days. Now, we're not going to do this for 30 days, we're going to do this for a week. But think about the ideas he's talking about here.
A few years ago, I felt like I was stuck in a rut. So I decided to follow in the footsteps of the great American philosopher, Morgan Spurlock, and try something new for 30 days. The idea is actually pretty simple. Think about something you've always wanted to add to your life and try it for the next 30 days. It turns out 30 days is just about the right amount of time to add a new habit or subtract a habit, like watching the news, from your life. There's a few things that I learned while doing these 30-day challenges. The first was, instead of the months flying by forgotten, the time was much more memorable. This was part of a challenge I did to take a picture every day for a month, and I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing that day. I also noticed that as I started to do more and harder 30-day challenges, my self-confidence grew. I went from desk-dwelling computer nerd to the kind of guy who bikes to work for fun. Even last year, I ended up hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. I would never have been that adventurous before I started my 30-day challenges. I also figured out that if you really want something badly enough, you can do anything for 30 days. Have you ever wanted to write a novel? Every November, tens of thousands of people try to write their own 50,000-word novel from scratch in 30 days. It turns out, all you have to do is write 1,667 words a day for a month. So I did. By the way, the secret is not to go to sleep until you've written your words for the day. You might be sleep deprived, but you'll finish your novel. Now, is my book the next great American novel? No, I wrote it in a month. It's awful. But for the rest of my life, if I meet John Hodgman at a TED party, I don't have to say, I'm a computer scientist. No, if I want to, I can say, I'm a novelist. So here's one last thing I'd like to mention. I learned that when I made small, sustainable changes, things I could keep doing, they were more likely to stick. There's nothing wrong with big, crazy challenges. In fact, they're a ton of fun, but they're less likely to stick. When I gave up sugar for 30 days, day 31 looked like this. So here's my question to you. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you the next 30 days are going to pass whether you like it or not. So why not think about something you have always wanted to try and give it a shot for the next 30 days? Thanks.
So, as you think about that idea, the 30-day challenge, now obviously we don't have 30 days, so we're not doing a 30-day challenge, but we are going to do something that's called stunt journalism. Stunt journalism, or immersion journalism, is where journalists immerse themselves in a situation and with the people involved. The final product tends to focus on the experience um, not necessarily the writer. In other words, you actually are going to do the thing you are researching, and you're going to write about your experience, and you're going to include facts about your topic from expert sources. This is a research project and a research paper, but you get to write it in the first person because it is your experience that you are writing about. So here's some very short examples of stunt journalism. I just found these online. If we were face to face, you would be choosing a book to read, and you would be reading this book along with writing your paper. But obviously, we don't have that option this year. And so I'm just going to explain to you some examples of stunt journalism. So this first one is called Dinner is Printed by A.J. Jacobs. And I've highlighted for you his stunt and some of his expert sources, the facts that he consulted to bring into his project. So his plan, his stunt, is highlighted in yellow. He says he will immerse himself in the world of 3D printing. I would live for a week using nothing but 3D printed objects, toothbrushes, furniture, bicycles, vitamin pills, in order to judge the technology's potential and pitfalls. So that's the stunt that he's going to do. Then in blue, I've highlighted one of the expert sources he consulted. He approached Had Lipson, a Cornell engineering professor. And so he will go throughout this article that he wrote and give expert facts, statistics, data from Had Lipson, among others. Here's another example. Creating Your Happiness, the 21-Day Positivity Challenge. This writer from Montclair State University decided to take on a 20-day positivity challenge. This writer gives their reasoning in the couple of paragraphs at the beginning, then talks about what the 21-day positivity challenge is, what this person is actually going to do in yellow, and starts citing at least one of their resources, this quote from Wade Boggs, right? A positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive thoughts, events, and outcomes. It's a catalyst and sparks extraordinary results. That is one of his expert sources that this author brings into this stunt. Here's another one, the 30-day water challenge, right? This author said they did the 30-day water challenge and didn't notice any results, kind of like Beyonce. So in yellow, she talks about what actually went down, right? So what she found out. And in blue, she cites some of her expert sources, right? One woman tried the water challenge and her face looked radically different. Radically different is actually a hyperlink that would go out to an article about that woman's experience. And others claim that drinking a gallon a day eliminates headaches. That's also a hyperlink. So this person has hyperlinked to their expert sources. And finally, how to focus, the 4 best secrets to unitasking, right? In yellow, this person says what they're going to do. Their stunt. They are trying to unitask. So they are not focusing, they're not multitasking, they are only doing one thing at a time. And because this author actually wrote a book, My Life is an Experience, My Life is an Experiment, One Man's Humble Quest to Improve Himself. In that book are tons of experts that A.J. Jacobs consulted as he focused on unitasking and learning how to focus on doing one thing at a time. So those are 4 examples of quick stunts that you could do for a few days and journal about them to see how they affected you. And then also to research the concepts behind those stunts in order to find out what scientific principles there are, why biologically water is good for us, why mentally unitasking makes so much more sense than multitasking, how we're actually physically incapable of multitasking and completing things in a quality way. So you'd find those expert sources. So, what would you research if you had a couple of days? What are you curious about changing or about trying in your daily life?
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car? Ever gone mountain biking? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the right tip? Have you called a plumber to your home lately? How superstitious are you? How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery? Would you display this as a trophy? Do you have a pet? Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you believe in the power of a curse? Have you had your hearing tested lately? Planning a trip soon? Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen? Do you love to go a-wandering beneath a clear blue sky? Have you noticed what big stars real estate agents have become? Are you careful with your personal records? Does your computer ever seem to have a mind of its own? Have you ever visited a Chinatown section in a major city? Have you ever visited a flea market? Have you ever visited a truck stop? Did you ever have a job as a waiter? Have you noticed how many successful restaurants are theme-based these days? Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement?
So clearly, those were not necessarily stunts he was talking about, but so many different topics he brought up that you could think about okay, what things could you do at home during shelter in place for just a couple of days and see what results were there? So, the first step of your project, think of a question that Google can't answer. It should be something that you want to know about yourself, about your health or your mental health or your life in general. And you'll record your question or idea on Flipgrid. I know that Flipgrid is not working for some of you, and if you can't get your idea to record, that's okay. You can send it to me in Google Classroom, but try to record it if you can. So here are some examples, things that I might do for the next 3 to 5 days just to see how they change me and how I feel. Right? So, one example, if I actually do my physical therapy every day for the next 5 days, will I gain strength and flexibility? Right? That's something that I could easily do. And I could also easily research exercises for ankle strength. I could easily research the scientific principles behind physical therapy. I could easily research things that will make your ankle stronger, reasons or how long it would take to build strength and flexibility, like how many days, because obviously 5 days isn't enough, but it's a start. Another thing I could do, if I force myself to go to bed at midnight, will I feel better in the morning? One of the problems that I've been having during this shelter in place is that I stay up way too late. It's usually 2 o'clock in the morning before I go to bed. And then when I get up in the morning, I just feel like death. And so, can I force myself to go to bed at midnight? I'm not trying to force myself to go to bed at midnight for the rest of my life. I'm just thinking for the next 3 days, if I go to bed at midnight, will I feel better in the morning? Right? So, that's something that's like worth experimenting. And my last idea, if I log out of social media on my phone, right? If I just log out of my social media on my phone, will I be less distracted and actually read a book? I have a pile of books that I've been meaning to read and I haven't read them yet. And it's driving me nuts that I'm not just sitting down and reading a book. But I also know that I constantly am checking social media on my phone. So if I had a book out and I wasn't logged into social media on my phone, would I actually be able to focus and read? Those are some questions that I could ask myself and some things that I could do for just 3 to 5 days.